and known as ever smiling James.
Well, all the way from New Zealand. I'm in good company here, lots of smiling faces here. So thank you. And thank you for the welcome. And so this is a part of the world that I love. So I've been out to Malaysia a few times. In one of my previous careers, I was CEO managing all the parks in central London. So I spoke all over the world about parks and public realm and an open space management and government management and leadership. So I've been to Kuching and Penang and KL a few times as well. And now I do something completely different, but very linked. I'm the Director of Leadership at Inspire Group in New Zealand and Australia. And we work also at different locations all over the world for the New Zealand government, managing their leadership programs as well, including New Zealand Trade and Enterprise here in KL. So I'm here just for 2 or 3 days. I go to Singapore this afternoon, and yesterday I was speaking at the ASLI Summit on Human Capital in TN50, so that was a great opportunity as well. I want to talk about leadership, of course. I want to talk about some of the experiences that we have in our work with thousands of leaders all over the world. And I want to talk about simplicity, because I don't think there's anyone in this room, let me just check, there's no one in this room that wants to make their life more complicated. Yeah. Okay, well that's good, because then I'll share some things with you. Good. Yes. Well, I want to ask you first of all about what might be the most important thing in the world. Now, if you look at all of the research, it might be health, access to clean water, but actually above all of those things, it is well-being. Inner well-being, peace and connection with what you're doing. And actually, if you look at another bunch of research, one of the biggest ways to affect your well-being and lessen your well-being is a poor boss and a poor experience at work. And if you don't believe that, just think for a moment about the worst leadership you've experienced and the worst job you ever had. Hopefully you're not in that job right now. But think about how you felt at that time. Think about how you felt on a Sunday evening contemplating going back to work. Okay? So this stuff affects us deeply. It's very, very important. And why is it so important? It's important because we spend at least 10,000 days of our lives in this workplace, okay? 42 years, 5 days a week, maybe we get a few holidays, maybe we're sick sometimes, but that is how long we commit to this place of work. So it better be good, hasn't it? It better be good, 10,000 days. But of course it's often not. Business Insider released some research last year about 10 ways that work will ruin your life. Number 1 was a poor boss. Okay? But everyone's leadership journey starts somewhere, so I wanted to share just for 2 minutes my leadership journey. My leadership journey started here. I was brought up in the UK, in Wales actually, in a small market town where nothing much happened at all, and I was about 9 or 10 years old, and I got, I don't know if you'll remember the same experience, I got that one inspiring teacher. If you can remember, at school there was always one teacher that was maybe a little bit cooler, a little bit more inspiring. Well, this guy played the drums, and he had a sports car, and he was exciting. And he gave some great advice when we left school, which was just do the thing that you love in life. And I thought that was great. But of course, I didn't have any idea what that meant. But it just sounded great. But I kept hold of that advice, and the thing that I loved actually growing up was being outside. And I loved gardening, and I loved the outdoors. But I didn't realise you could really make a whole career of that. So I got another great piece of advice, which was actually to train as a landscape designer, a landscape architect, and at 27 years old, I found myself in charge of all of the parks and open spaces and facilities in London. Now, the moral to that story was just give things a go, show a growth mindset. I saw that job advertised, and I thought, there is no way I'll get a job like that. Leading 150 people, I've never led anyone. I applied because I thought I wouldn't even get an interview, but at least I could phone them afterwards and say, what do I need to do for the next 20 years to get a job like this? Well, I got an interview and I got the job. So then I went, oh, wow, what do I do now? So for the next 6 years I learned, as we often have to all do, about imposter syndrome, and I learned on the job, just making mistakes and learning every day about how to be a good leader.
I think there is one quote from Sir Richard Branson. Take the opportunity, yes. Learn later.
Yes, absolutely. Always say yes, and then figure out what you're going to do on on the way to the job. It's not very good for the heart rate though. And then from there I went north of London and managed great big public facilities and golf courses and hotels and charity that managed all of this. And I also met a very inspiring lady at this time, and here's my first book recommendation of the day. A great book called It's Tough at the Top. It's a UK book about the difficulties of managing charities in the UK and how tricky that world is. But I also had the opportunity at that time to become part of our national federation, an international federation of urban forestry. That's what brought me out to Malaysia. And because I kept saying yes, I became chairman of this group. And it took me all over the world, to New York, to South Africa, to Malaysia, to Australia, speaking about leadership in public realm and speaking about leadership in local government. And I got those opportunities. I travelled to great places and I met some wonderful, wonderful people. But I started to see a pattern in terms of leadership and in terms of challenges. No matter where you were in the world or whatever industry you were talking to, there were some similar things that came through, and I'll share those in just a moment. Because these are some of the places that I went, but actually the place that I'm from now is right down here, okay? One of the most remote countries in the world. We have just 4.5 million people in New Zealand. It's the same size as the UK. The UK has 65 million people. So New Zealand is a beautiful place, okay? But out of necessity, because we're a long way from the rest of the world, we have to show great innovation. We have to create things ourselves. That's part of our culture. Innovation has already been very strong out there. And we have to show leadership every day. We have probably less hierarchy, more flat structure in our organisations. And I like to think we also have a lot of fun as well. And I now work for an organisation called Inspire Group. And if you look at Inspire Group online, you can see all of our case studies and examples of where we work in the world. And Inspire Group was set up 17 years ago in Wellington, New Zealand, with one simple aim, that better learning is life-changing. And if you think about that well-being piece, and if you think about the link between the leadership you experience and the leadership you practice and how you feel, it is truly life-changing. So I actually have a slightly different take on that. Better leading is really life-changing.
That's what MIHRM wants to be.
But what on earth is great leadership? Well, I can tell you that 2,000 books are published every single year on leadership. By the end of today, there'll be another 4 books published somewhere in the world about leadership, okay? And there are multiple TED Talks, which we enjoy, some of them we enjoy. There is an amazing $55 billion US spent on developing leaders throughout the world every single year. So you'd think that the world would be full of fantastic leaders, surely, with all that money spent on leadership and all those things written about it. But unfortunately, we know that's not the case. And we look at some nations, and we look at some companies, and we look at some experiences that we've all had as leaders as well. But Gallup do research all over the world looking at how people are engaged in the world of work. They've got 25 million examples of this now. And here's what their CEO had to say. That from all of that data, the most important decision you ever make is who you give that title leader to. If you give it to the wrong person, you can give people great conditions, you can give them great money and time off, but ultimately all of those benefits will mean nothing because they have a poor leader. And that stuff affects us every single way.
Prime Minister.
Yeah, no comment. No comment. I'll just leave that. Harvard as well, a great quote from Harvard there. The biggest impact on your health and happiness, of course, is the quality of your relationships. Now, we already know that. If we stop and think about it, our relationships in our social circle, at home, at work, that impacts how we feel every single day. But there's a bit of a problem. And the problem is that I work in the world of leadership development, so I thought this is a great opportunity to solve some of these challenges and to do something that's very, very effective. And after all, if you think about the research and realise that about 30 to 40% of people are actively disengaged from the world of work at any one time, about 70% experience or witness some form of bullying or mistreatment in their workplace. I think about 45% of US employees in a survey would rather take a pay cut and see their boss fired. So that's what they would do, okay?
Oh, 45%.
So you would hope, wouldn't you, that leadership development could kind of fix that.
Have the boss find a new job.
Yeah.
Help your bad boss find a new job.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
That's what I
absolutely. Leave some efforts on his desk. But there's a little bit of a problem. I'm hoping I can give you good news here, but not just yet. I will give you good news in a moment, though. But if you look at all of the leadership development done all over the world, and this is research by DDI, only about 35% of it is known to be effective. If you look at some of the Harvard research on this as well, and this was actually asking people who design programs, and practitioners and coaches and facilitators, only 7% they thought was best in class. Okay? So, it's not that good. And actually, if you want a really depressing read about the world of leadership, but a really true, honest read about the world of leadership and leadership development, this one is worth a look as well. And this really unpicks the whole world of leadership and leadership development and all of the nonsense that's written about it. But maybe the problem is ourselves. And actually, what is great leadership? Well, if you want to know the answer to any question, what do you do now?
Google.
Okay. So look at some of the ideas there. What makes a good leader? I can tell you that there are 32 million suggestions on Google for what makes a good leader. And surely there can't be 32 million different ways of being a leader. And if we look into the future, and I was speaking about this yesterday at the ASLE Summit, it's even more complicated. As we know that the world of work is changing, the needs of our teams are changing, and some of this we know about, some of this we can look at research on. We know that things like critical thinking, collaboration, sense of community will be very, very important to new generations coming through. But what they'll be looking for from their leaders is even higher standards and higher help to account. So it's a pretty miserable picture so far, isn't it? Leadership is a very important thing, maybe one of the most important things in the world. A lot of people are feeling disengaged in the world of work. If you've got a great workplace, or a great leader, by the way, you're very fortunate, you should definitely stay. And there is an industry out there trying to develop these leaders that isn't necessarily very effective. So, naturally, because I work in leadership development, I'm going to try and give you an answer to this. And the answer really comes from what I explained to you right at the beginning. If you think about my experiences that I had, that inspiring teacher, the growth mindset I needed to demonstrate to go and to apply for that job at 27, the looking after myself perhaps before looking after others as well when I moved into that job as a charity CEO with 2 young children. And I got thinking about this, and I worked with the team at Inspire, who've done all of these different leadership programs, and we thought, could we simplify this whole thing into 2 or 3 key aspects? And this is what we came up with. If you want to be a great leader, you just need to be a great leader. So leadership is something that you be, it's not something that you do. Leadership is simply a way of being. And actually, if you have those 3 things in play there, you'll be a pretty effective leader. And if you want to get even more specific, direct and inspire. And if you think about leaders that you've experienced, you may have experienced a leader that gives you very clear direction, but no inspiration. Or even worse, perhaps, strong inspiration and motivation, but you don't have a clue what you're supposed to do. What do I do? Okay? So, at the intersection of direct and inspire is the balance. Okay? And actually, what's where that magic happens? That magic happens in the form of conversation. And again, if you look at all of the research, what is the #1 thing that leaders struggle with? Difficult conversations. They struggle to have those conversations with their teams. If you have an experience like we've just heard about, where you get that definite weekly one-to-one, it is the cornerstone of great leadership, that conversation. And I'm wondering, and I'm guessing that some of the things you would talk about in that conversation wouldn't always be easy things. They would be a whole range of different things. So that is the cornerstone of that great leadership, conversation. And what's the #1 thing that leaders find difficult? Having difficult conversations. So there's a pattern there, okay? So So we spend a lot of our time in the leaders that we develop, and we work for all of the government bodies in New Zealand particularly, teaching people to have better conversations with their teams and with people around them. And we work for a whole range of different organisations, with government, with private sector, internationally as well, with non-profits as well. We work with small organisations. We work anywhere where we think we can make a positive difference to lives. But there's another important design principle in whatever we do, and it's this one. That it's quite simple until you make it complicated. And simplicity is really, really hard. If you think about, if someone challenged you to write perhaps 100 words on a topic, or they said you can write as many words as you like, 100 words is really, really hard. It sounds like an easy thing, but how do you pack it down into 100 words? So simplicity is a very important design principle to us. And here is just the third, perhaps and final book recommendation. This simple book, called Simplify, takes some of the world's leading organisations and businesses and unpacks what they did to simplify their processes and simplify their management and their leadership down to those core beliefs. Now, a question I get asked when I speak about this stuff is, okay, what actually makes good leadership development? You've talked about how simple leadership could be. You've shown us some of the depressing numbers, but what makes really, really great leadership development? Well, what I can tell you is that all of these organisations here have made a great living about telling us what makes bad leadership development. And if we see on our LinkedIn feeds and our news feeds, 10 ways that leadership ruins your life, 10 ways that leadership development is a waste of money, we generally click into them and have a look. But actually, if you take all of that research, particularly the Harvard and McKinsey stuff, and distill it down, it comes down to just 4 things. Now, what we decided to do at Inspire is just take those 4 reasons and do the opposite. So if we know that these are the 4 big reasons why leadership fails, let's just spend our time on those things. And the biggest, above anything else, is context. And if you think about leadership development that you've experienced, if you go into day 1 of a workshop and the facilitator is talking in a way that's just, you don't recognise, or talking about issues and problems that are not appropriate to your organisation or your culture, you switch off within 5 minutes. Because this isn't going to be relevant to me, this person can't help me with the challenge that I've got. But if they're talking about things that are relevant to you, and if they're talking about those challenges, and if they seem to understand you right from the beginning, you're back. You're back in the room, you're happy and you're engaged because this will be a good use of my day. And linked to that is looking at real work. How many times have we all sat there and they said, let's imagine a hypothetical situation. Let's not imagine a hypothetical situation. Let's talk about a real challenge that I'm facing today as a leader. Help. I need to practice that now with these people in the room. Okay? And of course, mindset. Now, we know a lot about growth mindset, but actually, a leader's mindset, and in terms of believing that they can always improve and they can learn from mistakes. And what I love about growth mindset is if you get a setback, that is difficult. But with a growth mindset, that's just a prescription for success the next time. So if it goes badly as a leader, a conversation with a colleague, you just know how to do it. You found a way to do it better next time. But having that energy and that mindset is absolutely key. And the final one is to measure results. Now, working in this world of HR and OD and leadership development, results are really, really hard to manage and measure. We can measure whether they enjoyed the day and they liked the lunch or the room was too warm or too cold. But actually, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year later, how did it make a difference? That stuff is really, really hard. I have a solution in just a moment. But let's not forget as well how we actually learn. Okay? Now, if I'm very lucky, you might be picking up probably 20, 30% of what I'm saying here. I hope so. Yeah. I'm the third speaker, so we'll see. But if we were to move up there and actually to simulate some of the challenges you face as leaders, if I was to spend time with you in your world of work, we'd be getting up towards the 90s and the 100s. Okay? And that's really what we need to be thinking about when we develop leaders. And if you think about how you learn a new skill, okay, I'm trying to teach myself to cook better at the moment. Years ago, I would have waited and booked myself on a cookery program. I would have waited months until one came up, and I would have gone along every week to a night college and learned. But now I can look online. I can watch someone doing a YouTube video of that dish If I'm super interested, I can join an online forum and talk about that dish as much as I like. So all of that stuff is available to me. This is just blended learning. But when we get to the world of leadership and HR, sometimes we forget. Actually, this is the way that people learn. And they learn through a long period of time. There we go. Another question I get asked as well is, okay, so we know some of those future skills, but how will this stuff be taught in the future? And again, what we've done at Inspire is just distilled down all of the research from those partners and tried to bring it down to 5 simple themes that we're seeing. And if we look at the clients we're talking to at the moment, particularly in, say, Sydney, Great World City, this is what they're asking for. They're asking for programs that are incredibly personal and portable. They can be taught through your smartphone, you can snack on them whenever you like, you can look at that model for having a difficult conversation 2 minutes before you have that conversation, and because you're looking at your phone or your tablet, nobody knows what you're looking at. You don't have to pull out the workbook, and everyone knows that you're looking at how to do that, you're just looking at your email as far as they know, you're actually looking for some tips, or maybe you're connecting with your cohort and asking for their advice. We're seeing increasingly programs that are much heavier on experience and very light on content. Content can be delivered through devices. Experience is what happens in the room. And finally, we're seeing a big emphasis on social. But when we think about social, we often think about digital. We also think about 3D analog, which is what we are now. We're in a room together, and that's actually where the real change happens with leaders. Now, this is not a sales pitch for Inspire, but if it was, I would probably tell you about some of the things that we do. Now, all of these are available on our website. We do, of course, workshops, as you'd expect. We have a whole team of graphic designers that spend a lot of time on the materials. Now, there's a lot of research about the neurological connection that you'll make when you see your own branding and graphics, and you see simplicity coming through printed materials. We also do a lot of coaching, a lot of apps, but also, we've heard this mentioned already, games, board games. We design board games for different organisations. Our most successful one at the moment, believe it or not, in New Zealand is for the tax department, for their 500 leaders. They love playing a board game about leadership collaboration. Okay, it's a simple thing, they move around a board and they have simulations throughout the game. So we have a talented team of designers, game board providers. We also, I mentioned earlier on that New Zealand out of necessity has to build these things. So one of the challenges we faced a year ago was that we were getting asked for all these mobile learning pieces. But clients were saying, we want to build a module for our phones to talk about difficult conversations. But in a year's time, we want to change it because our culture will have changed. And actually, you will have taught us how to have those conversations, so we want to update the module. But up until now, you have to be a developer. You have to be a coder to build these things. And we thought, could you build a package that would enable anyone in this room, including myself, to go into this and build beautiful online learning? And this is called Chameleon. And again, there'll be a lot of information coming on our website in a few weeks' time about this. This is going to be a really great product. The other tool that we built ourselves because we got fed up with other people waiting to do this is Evaluate. And we use a system called TinyPulse at Inspire. You may have come across it, which is a HR engagement tool. And that sends you a question every week to your phone. How happy are you? I got one this morning, which is how can we improve communication within Inspire? Because there's research there that shows that you will find time every week to answer a 10-second question. But if I sent you 30 questions every quarter, you will not find the time to do it. It's the same deal. It's the same research that says that the optimum length of time for a YouTube video is 1 minute 54 seconds. If you see that on the timeline, and you'll click into it, you'll watch it, you probably wouldn't watch one that's 3 or 4 minutes because you feel you're too busy. But you'd watch the 3 or 4 of those 1 minute ones. We also spend a lot of time producing motion graphics. Motion graphics are simple 90-second animations. We have an in-house animator, which is very unusual for a learning design company, who builds these things, and again, they're all on YouTube and on the website, to explain why great leadership is important within any organisation. And as I've already mentioned, all of these things are increasingly being delivered by the powerful things we carry around in our pocket at all times. But above all that, and I could have shared with you lots of exciting numbers that people feel more engaged when they come on our programs, etc. But this is the stuff that really matters. Don't forget that ethos, life-changing. If someone goes through a leadership program and they go home half an hour earlier that night, and they're in better shape for their partner and for their children, and they're feeling more relaxed, that's what success looks like in leadership development. It's the stories and it's those connections that really, really matter. And finally as well, here's something that, and again, I've got a couple of booklets there I'll leave here. Again, the PDF's on our website. One of the challenges we realised was that if context is so important, if you're a great big government body, you can afford to engage someone like Inspire to do a bespoke program to all of your different needs and culture. But if you're a small business, if you're an emerging business, and 97% of New Zealand businesses have less than 20 staff, how do you do that? So what we did was took all of that goodness and we produced a set of programs called Inspiring to Lead, which are off-the-shelf programs, but still with an aspect of customization as well. And that's going really, really well. And that's the sort of thing, by the way, that we could easily deploy out here in Malaysia. So let's go back to that first slide and think about feeling good, okay? And end on a high, I hope. That leadership actually is much more simple than we think. Okay? It really, really is. It comes down to those 3 or 4 things. And if you're going to develop leaders, and we're all trying to develop ourselves and different leaders, if you just focused on another one thing, context, you would be 80% more effective. And if you do that, you will create what we're all trying to create, which is an environment of psychological safety. Which again, all of the Google research that they've done shows that that's the top thing people want within the world of work. To feel trusted, and to feel safe, and to feel valued. And the simple formula at the end of that is abundance. Abundance of engagement, abundance of profit, abundance of productivity, whatever the thing you're looking for within your organisation is. And of course, let's not forget this. So, thank you very much.
Okay, questions open to the floor. Ladies first, I see Grace about to. Why not?
Okay, I have a question. What would be the... I know there is a very famous leadership practice by James Bosman, right?
Yeah.
In your opinion, what would be the first crucial leadership practice? Apart from the one they say, you know, I remember the encourage the heart, but in your own definition.
So the first thing we focus on, first morning, with any program, is mindset.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Are those people in the room of the right mindset to be leaders? Have they got the right degree of vulnerability and the right degree of attitude and aspiration to be a great leader? Because oftentimes we find that people become leaders for lots of different reasons. Sometimes for money, sometimes they're very technically good at something. It doesn't mean they actually want to be leaders. So if they don't have that mindset,
Yes.
then actually perhaps they may be in the wrong job as well.
Second question. Okay, not started.
Oh, great, that's great. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, how did we come together?
Oh, through chance.
We've done it 1 month ago, is it?
It was.
Yes. So thank you for.
We want to stay.
One more question.
One more question.
You answer.
Okay,
Answer.
multitask.
One, two. Maybe the 3 speakers can...
Can please somebody else take.
James, how do you develop kids?
How do I develop, sorry?
How do you develop leadership in kids?
In kids,
Yeah.
it's the same thing, growth up mindset.
All the speakers.
You have the
Oh,
same.
close up.
He has the same height.
Balance up, yeah. You balance up. Feng Shui balance up.
We
Yeah, please.
Yes.
Are you okay?
Okay.
Looking good.
Too informally attired.
Okay.
The main camera
Oh, I see.
photographer.
That's-
Yeah.
That's the most.
And that's moving. Okay.
Wow. It's okay? All good? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, okay, ladies and gentlemen, before you leave,